happened was the company on our flank, on one side of us, the Germans went through. Turning that flank meant that they would attack us from the back and would wipe us out. So we began to withdraw, and we were retreating back to a ridge. And so as we were retreating back to the ridge, the Germans were advancing. We were both going in the same direction. They were on either side of us, but we couldn't see one another. And finally we got to the town square, a city square not unlike the city square in Burnsville, a city block, but this thing was 2 or 3 city blocks in size. And they were full of American soldiers when we came in contact with the Germans. And so a firefight broke out. And so we fought for 45 minutes to an hour and filled the square with bodies. And so with that, we then continued our retreat. When we continued our retreat, I went back to work on the wounded. And so I was back there working on the wounded, working on anybody I came to, German or American. The American soldiers carried on the small of their back, on their web belt, a bandage box 3 inches, 4 inches long, 2 inches wide, and a ½ an inch thick. And so you opened this case and got the bandage out. I was only carrying about 50 bandages, and I was going to need more for that whole square. And I was working on these men, bandaging those that I could. So I looked up, and over in another corner of the square was a German medic working on Germans. We both continued to work for 35 or 40 minutes, and finally he came over to me and said, "I've lost my scissors." When you would cut a man's uniform off of him, he would frequently roll on your scissors, cover them up, and they were lost. I had my scissors tied to my wrist so that I could pull them out from anybody, so that I could always find my scissors. And he lost the scissors, and I gave him an extra pair of scissors that I had. A half an hour later, he came back, he'd lost his scissors again. And I gave him a second pair, my third pair and last pair. And I tried to tell him, "Don't lose them again." And he said, "You don't get to tell me what to do." And he went back to go to work. And about that time, a German car pulled up with an officer in it. And he called out to the German medic, "Kill that American." And he said to the German officer in German, "He's a medic, he's working on the wounded, and he and I are doing the same thing." And the officer said, "I said to kill him." So the officer took a pistol out of his holster and started to shoot at me. And he shot at me across this square. I knew that with a pistol there was no danger that he could ever hit me. But this German medic stood between me and this officer. The officer took his pistol, put it back in his holster, got in his car, and drove off. In another 15 or 20 minutes, I had run out of bandages. So I turned around and went to catch up with my platoon.